The morning I lost everything started ordinary enough. I woke at 6, made chamomile tea for my mother, and watched her sip it slowly. She'd been coughing for 3 days straight, her chest rattling with each breath. "Go to work, Maya," she whispered, her voice scratchy and weak. "I'll manage." I kissed her forehead, grabbed my worn laptop bag, and headed out the door. Something felt wrong in my stomach, like a stone had settled there. At the office, my boss Mr. Kane was already pacing near the conference room, barking orders at junior staff. He was tall with silver-grey hair and cold blue eyes that never showed warmth. Around 11:30, my phone buzzed. It was Mrs. Patel, our neighbor. "Maya, your mother collapsed in the kitchen." I called 911. "They're taking her to Memorial Hospital." My heart stopped. I ran straight into Mr. Kane's office without knocking. "I have to leave," I said, my voice shaking. "My mom's been taken to the hospital." He looked up from his computer, annoyed. "We have the Henderson client presentation in 45 minutes. You prepared the slides." "I know, but this is an emergency. If you walk out that door," he said slowly, "don't bother coming back." I stared at him, searching for any hint of humanity. There was none. I grabbed my bag and ran through the lobby, tears blurring my vision as the glass doors swung shut behind me. The hospital hallway smelled like bleach and fear. I found my mother in the emergency room, lying on a narrow stretcher beneath harsh fluorescent lights. Her skin looked grey, her lips pale. "You came," she murmured when she saw me. I took her cold hand in mine. "Of course I came, Mom. Always." Nurses moved around us quickly, checking monitors and adjusting 4 lines. A doctor in blue scrubs pulled me aside. Her blood pressure dropped dangerously low. "We're running tests, but she needs to stay overnight for observation." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. I stayed beside her bed all night, listening to the steady beep of machines and whispering prayers I half remembered from childhood. At midnight, my phone buzzed. An email. The subject line read, "Termination notice. Effective immediately." My hand shook as I opened it. "Due to abandonment of duties during critical business hours, your employment with Kane Corp is terminated. Final paycheck will be mailed." 3 years of loyalty, weekends worked, skipped lunches, gone in one cold paragraph. Mom squeezed my hand weakly. "Don't cry, sweetheart." "I'm not crying," I lied, wiping my eyes. But that night, sitting in that sterile room, I made myself a promise. One day, I would return to that building, not as someone he could dismiss, but as someone he couldn't ignore. The weeks that followed felt like drowning in slow motion. Between hospital visits and mounting bills, I barely slept. The kitchen table disappeared under stacks of medical invoices and rejection letters from job applications. I took whatever freelance HR work I could find online, editing resumes for $20, helping tiny startups write employee handbooks. Every single dollar mattered. Mom came home after 2 weeks, still weak but stable. I watched her shuffle from the bedroom to the couch, guilt eating at me. Then one Tuesday morning, an email arrived from Amanda, an old coworker from Kane Corp. "Hey Maya, thought of you. Eastbridge Consulting is running a leadership mentorship program. They sponsor full HR certification. You are always the best at handling people stuff. Apply." I stared at the screen, hardly daring to hope. That night I sat at my laptop until 3 in the morning, crafting my application letter. I wrote about fairness, empathy, and second chances. 2 weeks later, another email made me scream out loud. "Congratulations. You've been accepted into the Eastbridge Leadership Program." Mom smiled from the couch, tears in her eyes. "I knew you'd find your way." For the first time in months, I believed her. Hope, small and fragile, flickered back to life like a candle in the dark. Training at Eastbridge was brutal and beautiful. We studied employment law, conflict resolution, corporate ethics, and organizational psychology. I stayed late every evening, taking extra modules while others went home. The instructors called me focused and intuitive. "You have a gift for reading people," my mentor Professor Hughes told me. "Don't waste it." I wasn't wasting anything anymore. Between classes, I visited Mom, who grew stronger each week. Her color returned, her laughter came back. "You look different," she said one afternoon, studying my face. Harder somehow, but in a good way. She was right. The wound from Kane Corp still burned inside me, but now it fueled me instead of breaking me. I channeled every ounce of pain into excellence. 2 years passed like a dream. I completed my certification, graduated top of my class, and earned a promotion to HR partner at Eastbridge. Then one Monday morning, an email landed in my inbox that made time stop. Eastbridge has finalized a merger with Kane Corp Logistics. You'll be leading the HR integration review. I read the company name 3 times. Kane Corp. The place that fired me for saving my mother was about to become our subsidiary. Fate, I realized, had a twisted sense of humor. For several long minutes, I sat frozen at my desk, staring at that name. Kane Corp. The company that crushed me was now under my jurisdiction. My task was clear: lead a full HR review of their management structure and workplace practices. When I told Mom that evening, she put down her tea slowly. "Are you ready to see him again?" she asked quietly. "More than ready," I said. "But this time, I'm not begging for anything." The following Thursday, I dressed carefully: navy blazer, white blouse, low heels, hair pulled back in a professional bun. I walked into the same building where I'd once felt invisible. Employees whispered as I passed through the lobby. "Is that Maya Lee?" someone said. "I heard she's from Eastbridge." The conference room was on the 3rd floor. When I opened the door, he was standing there. Mr. Kane. Silver hair perfectly combed, expensive suit, that same cold expression. He extended his hand with a polite smile. "Welcome. You must be the HR partner from Eastbridge." I shook his hand firmly. "Maya Lee. Pleased to meet you." His face went pale. The color drained so fast I thought he might faint. Recognition hit his eyes like lightning. I didn't realize." He stammered. "It's been 2 years," I said calmly. "Shall we begin with your departmental reports?" He nodded stiffly, visibly rattled. I opened my laptop and smiled. Game on. The meeting lasted 2 hours. I asked pointed questions about turnover rates, employee satisfaction scores, and complaint resolution procedures. Mr. Kane's answers were defensive and vague. "We run a disciplined operation," he said stiffly. "Efficiency is our priority." I noticed his managers exchanging nervous glances. Fear hung in that room like smoke. After the meeting, a young woman named Tessa approached me in the hallway, glancing around nervously. "Can I speak with you privately?" she whispered. We stepped into an empty office. "People don't last long here," she said quietly. "He yells at everyone. If you question him, you're gone. I've seen 3 people fired this year for taking sick leave." I wrote everything down. "Thank you for telling me. This stays confidential." Over the next week, I conducted private interviews with employees across every department. The stories poured out like water from a broken dam: unpaid overtime, threatened terminations, denied medical leave, hostile work environment. One man broke down crying, describing how Kane berated him in front of clients. I listened, documented every word, and said very little. Justice, I'd learned, moves quietly before it strikes. The more I uncovered, the clearer the picture became. Kane Corp wasn't just poorly managed, it was toxic from the top down. And Mr. Kane was the poison. Back at Eastbridge headquarters, I compiled a comprehensive report. Charts showed sky-high burnout rates, abysmal retention numbers, and over 30 formal complaints that had been ignored or buried. My director, Mr. Carter, frowned as he read through the findings. "This merger needs serious intervention," he said heavily. "We'll need someone to go in as HR director, someone who can rebuild trust from scratch." My heart pounded. "I'm volunteering," I said immediately. Carter looked up, surprised. "You sure? It won't be easy. You'd be working directly under hostile conditions." "I know exactly what I'm walking into," I said. "And it's personal." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right. I trust your judgment. You've earned this. Within 2 weeks, the official announcement went out across both companies. Maya Lee appointed HR Director of Kane Corp under Eastbridge Management Oversight. I read the email 3 times, letting it sink in. The girl who'd been fired for choosing her mother over a presentation was now returning as the boss's boss. Poetic justice didn't even begin to cover it. When I told Mom, she hugged me tight. Be fair, she whispered. But don't let him forget. I won't, I promised. Fairness was exactly what I intended to deliver, the kind that comes with receipts. My first morning as HR Director felt surreal. My new office was spacious, with windows overlooking the city and a door that locked. 2 doors down was Mr. Kane's office. Around 10, he knocked softly and stepped inside without waiting for permission. So you're running HR now, he said, forcing a tight smile. Congratulations. Thank you, I replied evenly. I'm here to ensure the merger transition runs smoothly and compliantly. His jaw clenched. I hope you're not here for revenge. I looked him straight in the eye. I'm here for fairness, Mr. Kane. That's all. Something about my calm tone seemed to unsettle him more than anger would have. He left quickly. Over the next several weeks, I held one-on-one meetings with employees from every level. The stories kept coming, threats disguised as feedback, people forced to work through family emergencies, evaluations weaponized to control behavior. I listened carefully, took detailed notes, and assured everyone their voices mattered. Slowly, people began trusting me. They started coming directly to my office instead of going to Kane. I could see his frustration building like pressure in a sealed container. One afternoon, he slammed his office door so hard the glass walls shook. Through the window, I saw him pacing, fists clenched. I heard him mutter to someone on the phone, "She's ruining everything I built." I smiled faintly to myself. No, I thought. I'm fixing what you broke. Mr. Kane fought back in small, petty ways. He scheduled staff meetings without notifying me. He questioned my policy changes in front of employees. He even spread whispers that I was unqualified, that Eastbridge had made a mistake. But each time he pushed, I responded with facts, documentation, and calm professionalism. We're following Eastbridge compliance standards, I'd say politely, holding up the policy manual. If you have concerns, feel free to escalate to Mr. Carter. He never did. Employees began noticing the shift. People smiled more in hallways. Laughter returned to the break room. One young analyst named Brandon stopped me near the elevator. Thank you, he said quietly. My wife just had a baby, and you approved my paternity leave without making me feel guilty. That's never happened here before. Those moments kept me grounded. This wasn't just about Kane anymore, it was about building something better. But I won't lie, watching him lose control gave me deep satisfaction. He'd spent years wielding power like a weapon. Now he was learning what accountability felt like. One evening, as I reviewed complaint files, I realized something important. Revenge wasn't about destroying him, it was about making sure he could never destroy anyone else again. That distinction mattered. It kept me fair when I could have been cruel. A month after I started, Eastbridge executives scheduled a full operational audit. Mr. Kane strutted through the office that morning, pretending everything was perfect. He smiled at employees who avoided eye contact, straightened papers on desks, and spoke loudly about our strong culture. But my files told a very different story. When Mr. Carter and 2 senior auditors arrived, Kane greeted them warmly in the conference room. Gentlemen, welcome. As you'll see, Kane Corp runs like a well-oiled machine. Carter nodded politely. We're here to review HR practices and leadership effectiveness. Maya will present her findings. Kane's smile faltered slightly. I connected my laptop to the projector and pulled up my presentation. The first slide read, Kane Corp HR Compliance Review, Critical Issues Identified. Kane shifted in his seat. Over the next 40 minutes, I walked through everything. Turnover statistics, complaint logs, policy violations, financial irregularities in overtime payments. Each slide was backed by documents, emails, witness statements. The room grew colder with every chart. These patterns, I said calmly, all trace back to consistent management behavior under Mr. Kane's direct supervision. Kane stood abruptly. This is completely inaccurate. Carter held up one hand. You'll have an opportunity to respond. Please sit. I continued. Multiple employees report a culture of fear and retaliation, including my own wrongful termination 2 years ago. Gasps rippled around the table. Kane's face flushed red. That was a misunderstanding. No, I said quietly, clicking to the next slide. This is my termination letter, signed by you. I was fired for leaving during a medical emergency involving my mother. That violated both company policy and state labor law. Silence filled the room like thick fog. Carter leaned back, studying Kane with cold eyes. Is this documentation accurate? Kane swallowed hard, his confident mask crumbling. It was a complicated situation. It seems fairly simple, Carter interrupted. You violated employment law and created a hostile work environment. Effective immediately, you're suspended pending formal investigation. Kane's chair scraped back violently. You can't do this. I built this company. You built a liability, Carter said flatly. Eastbridge expects integrity. You'll hear from our legal team. Security escorted him out while employees watched through the glass walls. Some people clapped quietly. I felt no triumph, just a deep, quiet peace. Justice had finally arrived, not with thunder, but with truth. The days following Kane's removal were chaotic. Years of hidden problems surfaced like debris after a flood, missing personnel files, unpaid overtime claims, performance reviews clearly written to justify predetermined firings. I worked 16-hour days with my new HR team, sorting through the wreckage. We contacted every terminated employee from the past 3 years, offering reviews of their cases. 7 people had been wrongfully fired. We offered settlements and apologies. The office atmosphere shifted dramatically. People who'd walked with hunched shoulders started standing straighter. Break room conversations grew louder, more relaxed. One morning, a young woman named Priya stopped me near the coffee machine. It feels different here now, she said shyly. Like I can actually breathe. That's the goal, I told her. Work shouldn't feel like survival. Mom called that evening while I was still at the office. I saw the news online, she said. They wrote about the merger and management changes. You actually did it. I leaned back in my chair, exhausted but satisfied. I just did my job, Mom. No, she said firmly. You stood up for yourself and everyone else he hurt. That takes courage. I looked around my office, the desk where I now made decisions, the window overlooking the city lights. 2 years ago, I'd run out of this building in tears, believing I'd lost everything. Now I was rebuilding it from the inside out. The girl who begged for understanding was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone forged by pain but not broken by it. Weeks passed. Productivity numbers climbed steadily. Staff turnover dropped by 60%. Employees started referring friends for open positions, something that hadn't happened in years. Mr. Carter visited for a progress review, walking through the departments with visible surprise. You've turned this place around, he said, impressed. Morale is completely different. People just needed to feel valued, I replied. That's not complicated. He nodded thoughtfully. Eastbridge wants you to stay on permanently as HR director. This isn't temporary anymore, we're offering you a full contract. I blinked, processing his words. Permanent. You've earned it, Carter said simply. Think about it. Later that afternoon, I walked through the office, and employees greeted me warmly. Good morning, Director Lee. Someone called from accounting. Great presentation yesterday, Ms. Lee, another said. The title still felt strange on my tongue, Director. But it also felt right, like a coat that had been tailored to fit perfectly. I'd spent years being invisible, my work stolen and my voice silenced. Now people saw me, heard me, respected me. That evening, I signed the contract. When I told Mom, she cried happy tears. My daughter, the director, she said, beaming. I always knew you had it in you. I didn't, I admitted. But losing everything taught me what I was capable of. One quiet afternoon, about 2 months after Kane's removal, a letter arrived at my office. Plain white envelope, handwritten address, no return label. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single page, the handwriting messy and rushed. I underestimated you. I'm sorry for what I did. Kay, I stared at those words for a long time, trying to decide what I felt. Anger. Satisfaction. Relief. In the end, I felt mostly closure. He'd finally acknowledged what he'd done, even if the apology felt inadequate. I folded the letter carefully and locked it in my desk drawer. Some ghosts deserved acknowledgement but not dwelling. Forgiveness wasn't about him. It was about releasing the weight I'd carried. I didn't need to hate him anymore. The next company-wide meeting was held in the main conference hall. I stood before over 100 employees, feeling nervous but steady. This isn't just a merger, I said clearly. It's a fresh start for all of us. Every voice matters here. Every person counts, regardless of position or seniority. Applause filled the room, genuine and warm. I saw pride in people's faces, something that had been missing before. Afterward, a young intern named Jessica approached me hesitantly. Can I tell you something? She asked. Of course. Her eyes welled up. My mom's sick. Cancer. I was terrified to ask for time off because at my last job, they made me feel guilty. But today you mentioned family leave policies, and I realized good bosses actually exist. My throat tightened. I took her hand gently. Always put family first, I told her. Jobs come and go, but family is irreplaceable. Take whatever time you need. She hugged me quickly, whispering thank you before hurrying away. That moment reminded me exactly why I'd fought so hard to get here. As months turned into seasons, I implemented comprehensive changes throughout Kane Corp. We launched wellness programs, flexible work schedules, and transparent performance reviews. I established an anonymous complaint hotline and mandatory management training on empathy and communication. The old culture of fear dissolved slowly, replaced by something healthier. People actually wanted to come to work. Sometimes I'd walk past the hallway where I'd once stood begging Mr. Kane to understand, and I'd pause. The memory no longer hurt, it had become a lesson instead of a wound. I wasn't bitter anymore. That surprised me. I'd expected holding power over him to feel sweeter, more satisfying. But actual satisfaction came from helping Priya get promoted, from approving Brandon's paternity leave, from watching Jessica take 3 weeks off to care for her mother without fear. Power wasn't about crushing someone who'd hurt me. It was about making sure nobody else got crushed. One rainy morning, Amanda visited from Eastbridge headquarters. We grabbed coffee in my office, rain pattering against the windows. Remember when you thought your life was over? She said, grinning. I laughed. You mean every single day for about 2 years? She looked around, taking in the framed certifications on my wall, the family photo of me and Mom on my desk. I always knew you'd make it here, she said. I didn't, I admitted honestly. But I learned that losing everything sometimes clears space for something better. That year, Mr. Carter retired after 30 years with Eastbridge. His farewell event was held at a downtown hotel, attended by executives and partners from across the company. During his speech, he gestured toward me in the audience. I want to recognize someone who reminded me what leadership really means, he said warmly. Maya Lee came to us during her lowest moment and turned it into her greatest strength. She showed us that leadership isn't about power or control, it's about empathy, integrity, and courage. The room erupted in applause. My cheeks burned with embarrassment and pride. After the ceremony, Carter shook my hand firmly. Keep that heart of yours, Maya, he said quietly. It's your real superpower. I will, I promised. Thank you for believing in me. You made it easy, he replied with a smile. Months later, I accompanied Mom to her routine clinic appointment. She'd been healthy for over a year now, her strength fully returned. We sat in the waiting room together, and she nudged me playfully. So, Director Lee, she teased. How does it feel being the boss? Strange, I admitted, grinning. But good. Really good. She squeezed my hand, her eyes serious now. Promise me something. Never forget what it felt like sitting on the other side of that desk, powerless and scared. I won't, I said firmly. That's exactly why I'll never become what he was. Good, she whispered. Then you're exactly where you're meant to be. Every year now, on the anniversary of that terrible hospital night, I light a small candle on my desk. It sits there all day while I work, a quiet reminder of why compassion matters. Most of my staff don't know the full story of how I got here. They don't know about the termination email at midnight or the tears in that sterile hallway. They just know I listen when someone needs emergency leave, and I never judge. That's enough. Because leadership isn't about broadcasting your struggles. It's about remembering them when someone else is struggling. I've learned that pain either hardens you or softens you, depending on what you choose to do with it. I chose softness. Not weakness, softness. There's a difference. I'm fair but firm, empathetic but clear. I hold people accountable while still treating them like human beings. It's not complicated, but apparently it's rare. Looking back now, I realize that losing my job was the catalyst I needed. It shattered who I thought I had to be and forced me to become who I actually was. Mr. Kane taught me what not to become: petty, cruel, drunk on small power. Eastbridge taught me what I could be: strong, fair, effective. Together, those lessons shaped me. As I stand by my office window, watching the city lights flicker to life at dusk, I whisper the words I say every anniversary: "We did it, Mom." Her voice echoes in my memory, gentle and proud: "You came back stronger." And she's right. I came back, not to destroy, but to build. Not to take revenge, but to create justice. Not as the scared girl who ran out crying, but as the woman who walked back in with purpose. That's the story I'll carry forever.